Now, ladies, we all know there is no perfect guy and no perfect relationship, but there are some essential characteristics that your husband to be should have. But before I get into all that, let me welcome you back to my channel. My name is Ayana, and this is Beyond Committed, where we talk about everything from life, faith, family, marriage, motherhood, and everything in between, and we take them beyond. If this is your first time here, welcome, and I'm so glad you stopped by. And to make sure you're not a stranger, make sure you press that subscribe button below and then turn on notifications so you don't miss a video. All right, now let's dive right in. So many of us ladies have lists. I mean, we have lists of our to-dos, lists of places we want to go, lists of girls trips we want to take. I mean, purses we want to buy, shoes we want to own. I mean, the list can go on and on. And when it comes to guys, we have a list for that too. I know so many wives to be have a list of what the ideal husband for them would be, what he looks like, what he makes, what characteristics he has, what attributes he has, all of these things. While having lists are great because they kind of help you moving forward, there's important that we make sure that a list is essential. List of things that you really need. I know for me, when I first started dating my now husband, I didn't have a list because at 19, I wasn't mindful enough to realize that I should have had a list and what should have been on that list. Because at the time, I just had a list of what I did not want in a relationship. I did not want him to be a cheater. I had been there, done that, had the t-shirt, didn't want to go back to there. I didn't want him to be my height or shorter. I'm only 5'4". I'm like, there's a lot of room in that. I didn't need him to be 6 foot, whatever. I just needed him to be taller than me. And there was a lot of things that now that I look back, I wish I would have put on the list of things I wanted in a future husband, not just the things I didn't want him to do or things I didn't want him to be. Because now that I look back, and now that I coach other wives to be, now that I have 3 daughters who one day will get married, there are things that they should be looking for, things that you should be looking for in a potential husband. There are 5 characteristics that a man in which you are considering to marry should have. One characteristic that you want to make sure your husband to be has is honesty. It is essential in a relationship and it is critical in a marriage because honesty helps you to build trust because you're going to make missteps. He is going to do things that you did not expect, that he did not expect. But you have to know that he is honest when he comes to you and admits his misstep. You have to know he is honest in, how he carries himself, where he goes, where he comes. You have to be able to trust what he is saying and trust that he also has the best interest for you and your relationship at heart. And that requires honesty. I know for me and my husband, that is essential in our marriage, especially with his job. He travels a lot for work. So there are times to where, he's gone most of the week. He's coming from here to there. Sometimes he comes home for one day and then he's out again for a few days. And it just kind of depends on the season on what's going on in his job at that time. He has to go to conferences and meetings and all of these. So in order for me to truly kind of just be confident in our marriage and confident in our relationship, I have to know that he is being honest with me with like where he's going and what he's doing and realizing that sometimes I don't know every step of his day, every place he's been, every person he's talked to. But because at his core, he is an honest man, I trust that he is going to be where he says he's going to be. And I don't have to worry about him being somewhere where that he shouldn't. Because over the years, we've built that trust. And he's been honest with me about things, even with tough things. I know there was one instance where he had this coworker who he was like at a meeting. And this coworker was female. I actually had met her. No issues, no problems. Nothing was triggered with me or anything like that. But he was at like this gathering with a friend of his. And a friend of his was like, you might want to watch out for her. And then after that, he kind of put the brakes on it. And then later he shared it with me because he knew that in our relationship, honesty was the best policy. And that's something that at the core we hold on to in our marriage. And at the core of your marriage and your relationships, you have to make sure that that is essential. Because if you find that your boyfriend now isn't being honest with you now, why would he start to be honest with you when you get married? And the second characteristic your husband to be should have is he kind? Is he kind to you? Does he consider your thoughts, your feelings, your well-being? But not just is he kind to you, because that can be easy. Because, he's in a relationship with you. He should be being kind to you. He should be kind of focused and worried about your feelings and your thoughts. But also, is is he kind to other people? Is he kind to his friends, family, your family, kind to strangers? Kind of how is he with people in general? Yes, there will be certain situations and certain people that's like, okay, he may have to be pulled back from, or that it may be a situation that, okay, he needs to kind of stand up for you or for himself. So this is not a kindness situation. He's going to be firm. He's going to have to be a man about his in that situation. But overall, is that the sentiment and the kind of attitude that he takes to everything? Or in generally, is he a kind person? Because that kindness is going to go a long way, and how he treats you, how he treats your family. Because also remember, in marriage, two will become one, and there's going to be some meshing of families. And sometimes navigating the in-law situation can be a little rocky. So it's so important that when you are in a relationship, you are paying attention to not just how he treats you, but how he treats other people. Because this will be a sign, not just now, but for later. And the third characteristic your husband-to-be should have is hardworking. Now, this is not equating to a certain salary or a certain income. This is talking about, is his willingness to work, is his willingness to do what's necessary to provide for your home, working both outside and inside of the home, to making sure that it is both provided for and cared for. And these are things that you see early on in your dating. For instance, my husband and I, we got together when we were still in college. So he didn't have a traditional job at the time. But in school, he worked hard. He was committed to his classes. He showed up. That was one of the things that attracted me to him. I was like, okay, every time I go to class, he had class. I'm like, okay, let me keep an eye on that one. Because he was committed to his schoolwork. And then once we started dating during the summer, when he did have a job, he was committed to that work. He showed up, he did all the things he needed to do because he had goals that he wanted to achieve. So he worked hard towards those, even though at the time he wasn't achieving a certain income status. He was a hardworking man, and that's something that's very attractive to me. And it should be attractive to you, because life is going to throw you some curveballs. There are going to be some ups and downs in your relationship. There are going to be some things in which you're going to have to do to kind of make sure your home and your family is provided for. And you have to make sure that your husband is hardworking and is going to commit to doing the things that's necessary to make sure your home is provided for. Because what if you lose a job? Is he committed to doing whatever it is to make sure he maintains the home? So until you get a job, or until you kind of get to a place to where you're okay? Or what happens if he loses a job and you're the only one working? Is he committed to continuously, making sure the home is cared for while, he either looks for another job or you find something that works for you? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter how it, looks to somebody else, or it doesn't matter, what income level it is. It's important that as a man and as your future husband, he is committing to being a hard worker, because your marriage and your life is going to take some work. And the fourth characteristic that your husband-to-be should have is fun-filled, because life is going to be hard enough. You can go through some ups and downs, some good times, some bad times. And then in the midst of all that, in the midst of him being a hard worker and trying to do all the things to commit to providing and caring for you and your family, he needs to be able to have fun in the midst of it. You need to have fun in the midst of it, because your marriage should be fun. You should be able to smile in times where you're like, ooh, you want to cry. You should be able to laugh in times where it's like, okay, this is for the birds, but we are committed to doing this together. And that's why it's so important that your husband-to-be has that fun-filled spirit within him. Will that look differently in different men? Yes. So, he may tell jokes, or he may, just be more intentional about making sure you do things, or how he cares for you. How it looks may be different, but at the heart of it, he is committed to making sure that, yes, you take your marriage seriously, but he also is committed to make sure you both have fun along the way. And the fifth characteristic that your husband-to-be should have, and I think is the most important, is that he is a man of faith. Because in order for you to have a God-centered marriage, you need to have two people in it that have God-centered lives. Because life is going to send you through some things. Your marriage is going to send you through some things. So it's so important that you are both anchored in God first. And regardless of how honest he is, how kind he is, how hardworking he is, and how funny he is, he needs to be centered on God first, so he can not just be all God has called him to be as a man, but all God is calling him to be as a husband, and be able to be the true servant leader God created him to be in your marriage. That means he needs to have God at the center of his life. Does that mean that he will be exactly where he wants to be in his faith, or exactly where you want him to be in his faith at that time? No, because his faith journey is his journey, just like your faith journey is your journey. But you have to just be making sure you're walking towards the same goal. You're on this same path together. You may not be at the same pace at the same time, but you have to make sure you are both seeking God individually, so that you can grow together within your marriage and truly have the God-centered marriage that you want. I know for my husband Eric and I, he actually encouraged me in my faith when he rededicated his life to God. I was like, oh no, I want that. There were some things that were changing about him, but I was like, okay, I love that about him. So now let me seek God more to see, okay, how can I grow in ways that I saw him growing? And it's been a slow process. And over the years, we've both grown in our faith individually and together. But it only happened because at his core, he is a man of faith. And over the years, we've grown in that faith together, but it was there from the beginning, because it was a quality in which I didn't know I needed then, but I'm grateful that I have now. All right, that's it for today. And I want to know, what's one characteristic that's essential for you and your husband to be, or that your husband already has? Let me know in the comment box below. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and then make sure you press that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a video. All right, now, until I see you again, bye.